Do you guys remember the games that went down in history as one of the greatest of all time? Games that are still remembered and played decades later. Games that changed everything with how iconic they are. Like Skyrim's intro cutscene,
Hey, you. You're finally awake.
or how to this day, developers are still trying to replicate Witcher's 3 insanely in-depth questing system with game-changing decisions in the player's hands. But above all that, the reason iconic games went down in history with such prestige was not because of something like this. It was because they had something special, and we might be on the verge on something that just might do this. And the game in question is The Witcher 4. Now then, in order to understand why The Witcher 4 could have such a high standing next to other games, we need to first take a step back and dive deep into CDPR as a company. The company that made the Witcher franchise into the game we know and what they are capable of. CD Projekt Red was founded by just two people in Poland all the way back in 1994. They started to scale up when they released their first major title, called The Witcher. This was released on October of 2007 and quickly found success with 1 million copies sold in just the first year. Naturally, they saw what players wanted and came out with a sequel in 2011. This was a huge era for gaming, with big hits like Black Ops, GTA, and Skyrim coming out. However, something was going to come out that took everyone by shock. On the 18th of May 2015, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt released and everyone loved it. It was everything players wanted from a single player game. With CDPR's previous titles doing so well, it was only a matter of time for the company to refine its product to such a state, and they did, let me tell you. The numbers show this, with 6 million copies sold in the first month alone, and now it's sitting on 60 million copies sold, and it's still going. To put this into perspective, GTA 5, one of the best selling media products of all time, sold 16 million copies in its first week. And this was from a well-known and respected studio, mind you. This was the breakthrough that CDPR was hoping for. This was no fluke as well, as they repeated this success with their next title, but we'll get into that in a little bit. The Witcher 3 is truly a game that shocked the gaming industry, with it gaining this much traction. It even shifted directions of big companies to how single player games are made from the ground up. But what did it do to make it what it is today? Well, it's not just one thing, it's a combination of things that when put together makes the perfect formula for a single player open world RPG. Start out with the graphics. At the time and even to this day, it has amazing graphics, which play a role in immersing you into the game and still hold up to modern AAA titles. But graphics can only get you so far, so let's get into the story. The story was so long for just the base game that players were actually complaining that it was too much to finish, and only a fraction of the player base actually got to the game's ending. Combine this with two huge paid expansions that were the size of a full game, and players suddenly had a lot to do. Couple this with the insane amount of side content, and most players found themselves hundreds of hours deep into playing The Witcher 3. After discussing the amount of content there is, it doesn't mean a thing if it's boring. Luckily, this was not the case, as this was one of the most charming aspects to it. They had an in-depth universe with rich lore that players actually cared about. This is apparent to how many people tuned into watching the actual series. If you add all this up and then some, with in-depth quests that change the outcome dependent on your decisions and various systems that all tie into one another, you suddenly get one of the greatest games of all time. And this shows till this day with tens of thousands of players logging in every day still after 10 full years. There are only a handful of single player games that did this, with the nature of single player games mostly being completed in the first week, then player count spikes down. CDPR found the success they were looking for, and everyone respected them, and so the spotlight was on them. Everyone was waiting for their next title, but this is where everything changed. All the way back in 2012, CDPR announced their upcoming title, which was Cyberpunk 2077, following The Witcher 3. As this was the last game in the trilogy. But little did they know that this would be one of the worst mistakes they have done. For now, let's follow the timeline and see what really happened with Cyberpunk. On January 10, 2013, Cyberpunk got its first teaser trailer. While it didn't show any in-game footage, it did have a few iconic words that would come back to haunt them later, which were coming when it's ready. So, a quick recap as to what happened so far. Cyberpunk was announced in 2012. The Witcher 3 released in 2015, it became an instant hit. Everyone was waiting for their next project that CDPR would come out with, and fast forward to 2018 with its first alleged gameplay reveal that was shown at E3. Noticed I said alleged. We'll come back to that in a little bit. Hype was up, everyone was convinced that this was the next big game, and CDPR promised a lot to the fans. So naturally the fans were eager to get their hands on the game, but with this amount of traction, Cyberpunk was pulling in a lot of investors as well. So CDPR had a lot of pressure to get this game out as soon as possible. And so the first release date was given, April 16th, 2020. After 8 years, fans were hungry to get the game, but little did they know that this was far from the actual release date. Throughout the year, it got an additional 3 release dates, which were all missed. This left fans frustrated, but CDPR covered this with telling players that they were just polishing the game, and they told fans that it was in a gold state, which was a huge mistake. Launch day came, and the game was a mess. The game was broken from head to toe, from game-breaking bugs to missing features to the game being different from the gameplay allegedly showed in previous demonstrations. It got so bad that PlayStation actually removed Cyberpunk from their store, as it was simply not playable. The company tanked from every possible aspect. Staff were leaving, players lost trust in them, and multiple lawsuits from investors. This made it clear why it kept getting delayed, with staff that were leaving exposing them, saying that devs told management it was simply not ready, but getting completely ignored just so the CEOs can please the investors. After a few long years, CDPR decided to take a step back, restructure their whole internal company so they could avoid a mess like this from ever happening again, hopefully. They cut out features and content from ever releasing to Cyberpunk 2077 to keep the timeline realistic for them. Many hated this, but CDPR showed that they were trying to fix this, with continuous bug fixes and added features coming out till this day. They were slowly winning back the fans. However, something was coming up that would change the public perception of them, and this was their first and only paid DLC expansion. With its release in September of 2023, alongside a huge 2.0 free patch, it showed that CDPR still had what it takes to make a great game, as this DLC was very highly reviewed. While Cyberpunk did not live to the insane amount of hype it had around it, and not everything promised made it to the game, it still turned out quite a solid RPG experience, with some ranking the in-depth characters as one of the best ever in the genre. So, where does all this leave us? Well, while it's way too early to say if CDPR was what it once was, fans are cautiously optimistic about them. This brings us to The Witcher 4. CDPR stated that they see Cyberpunk as a universe, not just a game. Keep on investing in it, but they want to alternate between games. So their next title will be Witcher, 3 of them to be exact. I'll explain in a little bit. And then they will release a new Cyberpunk game, Think of it like Rockstar with GTA and Red Dead Redemption. With the story of Geralt coming to an end from Blood and Wine, there will not be a Witcher 4. Instead, they will make a new saga, and as of now, its temporary name is Projekt Polaris. The main character will be Ciri. The good news is that they confirmed that Geralt will be in the game in one form or another, but how much, that we don't know yet. Now then, this might get confusing, so sit tight. Projekt Polaris will go in full development like a normal AAA game, so expect the normal 5 years of that time. But after they release the first one, there will be 2 additional games, so 3 in total, following that in a short period. So each game will be 2 to 3 years apart. As from 2004, Projekt Polaris went into full development, meaning that the concept phase is over and the groundwork is already laid out. Now they are scaling up the project with over 400 devs on Polaris, and the number will only grow the closer we get to the game's release. No release date is given, understandably. However, CDPR did state that we should not expect the game to launch before 2027. So if things go smoothly, which they never do, I would say 2027 to 2028 is a safe bet given what was said. On June 3rd, 2025, Projekt Polaris officially showcased its first teaser, but I'm afraid that CDPR pulled out the same questionable card that they did with Cyberpunk. The trailer shown was not actually gameplay, it was a tech demo, meaning that everything showed is purely a showpiece. Thankfully they highlighted this on the trailer, however I'm sure that some players will be misled by this. While everything we see here should be taken with a huge grain of salt, we can still pull some useful information to see their vision and general direction of the game. The first topic we'll talk about is on the tech that they are using. They moved to Unreal Engine 5, which allows them to have extremely high fidelity, so basically better graphics. The second point, and this is a big one, is the one that sparked the ambition for me to make this video. The reason why I personally think that this game has what it takes to make history in the gaming genre, while staying cautiously optimistic of course. Diving a bit deeper into this, we can see the length CDPR intends to go when it comes to the attention of detail and how immersive the world actually feels, at least from this demo. First we see how alive the village is, with a healthy population and diverse activities given to the NPCs. Next we see the soldier reacting to our presence. Here we have some fun activities again going on. Now this is very interesting. While walking down this path we bump into a villager carrying a box of apples, and this causes a chain reaction. First he drops the fruits on the ground, then they start rolling down, the chicken gets spooked, the kid starts taking some for himself, and the pigs left their cage to go get a snack. This lad gets thrown out of the tavern. We see a dwarven soldier in the picture as well. The market is bustling with life, seeing the salesman trying to sell his produce. And lastly we see how smooth and natural it is to transition into a quest. If they pull off something this dynamic, it will be a step up from previous games, which is quite the task given how great the previous games were. To round out this video, I had some news that gives us an insight to what we should expect next. As of October 2025, CDPR had some very interesting job postings up. 2 of them that really stand out and gives us a hint to what could be next are videographer and game capture lead. This entails that we can expect a trailer coming with real gameplay. I would like for you guys to voice your opinions in the comments. What do you think about all this? Do you think The Witcher 4 will be special, or will it be another flop? Cause these days you never truly know. I appreciate anyone that hits the like button and subs up. It really helps push out this video. Truly means the world to me. And thanks for watching guys. Peace.